Welcome to DD Durban Online. We're a church family on mission to see Durban change into a place where Jesus reigns. Here is this week's message.
So, ladies and gents, this morning I thought it best to maybe ask Jean Simons. Now, I don't know if you know who Jean Simons is, but Jean Simons is the leader of DD globally. So he's the guy that's steering the ship, almost like the dad of the family, and he's running the household in a sense. And I've asked him if he could maybe just from his side, as a dad over DD, just share something of his heart to the fathers. So he's going to be a part of my sermon then for that reason. So I've asked him to share, and you can then sit back and just check out Jean's message to us as Durban. Thanks.
I want to talk to you today about the fact that fathers truly matter. I've been a father for just over 30 years now. And if I think about the fathering role in the lives of my biological children, I'm also convinced that God will use us as a father figure in a leadership role where you could have leadership children. So maybe you want to consider that, even if you are a woman, fathering, the bringing of the heart of our Father to our children and to the people that we lead, that is a calling that is relevant to every mature follower of Jesus Christ. Maybe I want to share just 1, 2, or 3 dimensions of what I've discovered. The first one is that a father is a life giver. Biologically, you gave life to a child. But I think emotionally and spiritually, we have a calling to continue to breathe life into the spirit and into the minds and into the hearts of our children. A life giver is somebody who makes sure that the mistakes that you make, and you will make mistakes, that they are just fewer than the impartation and the growth and the encouragement and the development. I remember so many times with both kinds of children, my leadership children and also my biological children, there would be times in their life where they didn't believe in themselves. And just my words of encouragement and my coming alongside and empowering their dreams was a life-giving force that set them up for a better future. The second thing that I realized when my children were born is that I had the challenge of taking care of them, of nurturing them into a meaningful life. Now that is true biologically, that you physically have to feed and nurture and make sure that your children are healthy. But I do want to tell you that spiritually, and especially emotionally, we also need to nurture our children. You need to protect and care for them. It's one of the deepest desires of the human soul is to know that my Father cares for me. God cares for us. In Psalm 103, you will find the dimensions of a father's loving care. Simply, that means that I become aware of your needs. And you can do that for the people that you lead and for your biological children in every phase of their lives. My oldest has just had her second baby, and the fact is there still is a nurturing role that as a father I have in her adult life, as my adult child and the rest of my children as well. So in the first instance, you're a life giver. Second instance, you are taking care and nurturing. But then in the third instance, you need now to grow and develop your child. This has to do mostly with their thinking. When they got into primary school and high school and on with their studies, there was this constant development and training, including discipline. Discipline is a word in Hebrews chapter 12 that talks about correction, not making your child less, but growing, pruning, so that they can become more fruitful, more effective. The growing, the developing, the challenging, the bringing truth to the mind of your child sometimes includes some kind of conflict, but it's a loving father's work that we do not just nurture, we challenge, we grow, and we develop. And then the last dimension that I've discovered is my children need a coach. They need a soundboard. They need somebody that they can test their ideas with. And as they grow to become adults, not just my biological children, but also my leadership children, as they mature in their own leadership, I've delegated, but I raised them up to be strong leaders. They become fathers. And then my role as a father is to continue to sit on the benches just off the field of play where they live and function, and to be ready to support and to help and to make sure that they are raised up to their full potential. What a conversation. I mean, I want to encourage you to go and have this conversation with your children and talk to them about the life-giving, the nurturing, the growing, the developing, and the coaching. Those are the dimensions of a loving and a quality father figure. Our world desperately needs fathers like that.
Thank you, Jean. So there you guys have it. I think very practical tools and handles as a dad. And just as a reminder, he says, firstly, as a dad, you're a life giver. What do you speak over your children? What do you speak over your house? Your voice carries great authority. I'll never forget the first time my father told me that as a man, I will have that authority over my house. And the way I speak determines so much. You're a nurturer, caretaker. You're a developer, growing your child. And then lastly, you become their life coach, which is kind of like an honor when kids come and soundboard. Means they trust you. They say, wow, Dad, I love the way you've led. I want to follow in your footsteps. So today, I thought the only thing that I'd like to add on to this is to look at the one thing that I believe can give us 100% guarantee of failing as fathers. There's one little word that for all of us, not just as a father, but in any role that you've been given, but you'll see today why I'm addressing this specifically, one little word that is 100% guarantee you will fail if you fall for this. And then also, I'm going to look at, obviously, how we get over that obstacle in our space. So the word that I believe is 100% guarantee for us to fail is, give me a drum roll, please, everybody. Fear. There it is. I believe if you get gripped by fear, you will not be able to be the father that you've been called to be. 110%. I'm actually 200% certain. I can actually go to 1,000. That's how certain I am about this statement. You know, I know how it works when you say to a guy, you are afraid. What's the first thing a guy tells you when you tell them they're afraid? Nah, I'm afraid of nothing. Check me out. And then if you're like, what? Oh, really? What scares you? What scares you? And the next moment is that guy jumps up, puts his hands on the table. I'm a strong guy. And he like gets the chair out. Just shows you I'm the strong man. And then you know what? You look at him, he's like, look, I'm not afraid of anything. And when you see guys like that, you know, they're very afraid of everything around them. That's exactly why they're doing what they're doing. Yep. That guy, he's afraid. He's super afraid. So I just want to say, the first sign of being very, very afraid is saying, I am not afraid of, I am invincible. Correct? Just want to put it on the table. So there is something of a relationship and a journey that we all have when it comes to this obstacle of fear. In fact, we see it right at the beginning. In the garden. Did you know that Adam and Eve fell for a lie because of fear? What fear that they struggle with? Very famous one. Everybody jokes about it every now and then. Did you know the fear that the enemy presented in his lie? It sounds like it's FOMO. Everybody heard about that one? Fear of missing out. So you're never going to be like God unless you eat from this tree. God is keeping things back from you. You're going to miss out on the real big things. You will be able to know what God knows if you do what I tell you. And his light drives and lands there with the fear of missing out. And we joke like about it. How many guys, how many people in this room are driven by that fear many times? That fear becomes the voice. And the reason why I'm putting fear on the table is because here's a great truth about fear. Whatever you fear controls your life. Whatever you fear controls your life. I want you to think about this. If you fear not having enough, what do? Well, you look at whatever will provide for you enough, and you sacrifice your life to the altar of work or money. Then I will have enough, correct? What's controlling your every decision, every step you take? Well, the fear that lies deep underneath the surface. And all of these fears that we have in our lives are rooted in lies. This morning, I want to ask maybe all the dads, but not just the dads, everyone in this room. No one is exempted from this, but everyone in this room. Just want to ask you for a moment, what fear is the fear that's controlling you? Is it FOMO? Is it the fear of missing out? Is it the fear of not having enough? Perhaps it's the fear of being weak and vulnerable. I hear that lots of times from the ladies about their hubbies. You know, he cannot ever be in a place where he's vulnerable and tell me that he's weak. He just always needs to be strong. Classic, the big chair guy, you know, not afraid of anything. Is that maybe the fear that's controlling your decision-making processes? Is it maybe the fear of being out of control? Or the fear of letting go? You want to hold on to everything. Or maybe it's like in my case, the fear of rejection. You ever struggled with that one? It's been a fear that has been plaguing my life for quite some time. In fact, this morning I thought I'd make it a little bit personal, seeing that it is Father's Day. And I want to tell you about how deep this fear has actually ruined my life, not way back, but in the past 2 years. How the fear of rejection came to take a grip over my mind and over my heart, and every single decision that I would make would be driven and run by this fear. I'm so thankful because God has been journeying with me for quite some time now through this. And you know what's a scaly thing about fears, especially when they creep into your lives through a lie? You don't see them. You don't see them at all. Fear has the capacity to make you think that you really care about other people. It's always the guys out there. You know, I'm afraid maybe they will, or that will, or this will. But the moment you start fearing, who's in the middle of your world? You. The only person that you think of is you. But it doesn't sound like it when you speak it, correct? So I thought maybe I'll write down what happened the past 2 years to make sure that I articulate this very well. So if you guys won't excuse me for a moment, I'm going to be reading something of a summary as I've been reflecting on this journey. And then I want to land by telling us, how do we actually battle with these fears? That fears do not take a grip and control of your life as your role as father and your role as mother and every space that God has entrusted to you. So here it goes. This little statement that whatever you fear controls your life has proven to be more true and evident in my life than ever. I could have never imagined how strong this thing is gripping me, especially over the past 2 years of my life. And Jesus came to reveal to me how much control the fear of rejection has had over my life. You see, this fear would take a hold of my every thought. It would grip my attention and guiding my every single decision. When we came down to plant a church in Durban, very exciting moment, I did not expect that there would be such a great grip of fear grabbing my heart. You see, it felt like I could do nothing correct or good enough. I was questioning every single sermon, every preach, every social media post I had to make. And you know why? Because I knew no one. And I didn't know what they want. Because when you struggle from the fear of rejection, you're very good at knowing what people want. And you give them exactly what they want. And now I'm standing before everybody, and I don't even know what you think. I don't even know your names. Interesting to see how God deals with these fears, huh? Holding me back to what I thought, so I would hold back on everything that I wanted to say, holding me back because I want to be approved by people and only presenting what I thought would make me look good and presentable, earning me an applause. Do you see how evil this fear becomes when it starts ruling your life? My good and pleasing and perfect image was everything, because my hope for security from this fear of rejection was in that. That's the place. You see, this fear would also plummet me into the chaotic waters of the mind, drowning my thoughts in pools of self-condemnation, self-doubt, and great insecurity. This little storm would steer me back. This little storm would steer me back to all of my false securities of performance and approval. However, it was at this time and moment. The one morning I was praying. Let me just put my note there. I was asking God, what is He busy doing in my life? It's right at the beginning, when I didn't know what was going on. And that morning I saw a picture as I was praying. Became aware of a thought in my mind that came up after I asked the question. And I experienced God speaking to me in that moment and telling me, Lorraine, I'm dealing with the monster that's been feeding on the shipwrecks of your life. The thing underneath that brings all the beautiful ships that I'm calling you to sail in this world down. And it's called the fear of men. And it was at that time when God exposed my worst fear that He showed me He was busy dealing with that monster, this fear of rejection. Little did I know how much this fear controlled my life. So over the past 2 years, I would do what I always do, work hard and show people to get a great applause and feed the fear monster to keep it quiet. That's what I thought would happen. However, this time, I never could have expected that what I thought would happen would never happen. And here's where it gets personal. After a 2-year journey of giving everything, I found myself in a space where what I thought would happen did not happen. I did not see a church growing to the extent that I thought it would. It was actually at the beginning of this year. It was the 3rd Sunday. The first 2 Sundays, we were full house, almost like what we have today. The 3rd Sunday, when everybody's supposed to be back and there's supposed to be a momentum, Elena was sitting with me downstairs. And she was looking, I'm not sure if I should even be here. Still, we were having a chat. And at that stage, I thought to myself, okay, Dad, what's happening here? Because everybody just huffed. Are you growing something or not? And it was at that stage that the fear that was in my heart was revealed. And the thing that was truly guiding my decisions at that stage. As a father of this family. When I found myself in a place where guys leaving because they're moving, guys leaving because they don't like me, my greatest fear, rejection, becoming a reality in my life, it was only at that point that God could start working with me to deal with this fear. You know what's the best way of dealing with fear? If you're afraid of prison, you know what God's doing? He will put you in prison. You know why? Because He wants to show you that prison is not greater than He. He is far greater than your greatest fear. And He wants to give you the authority to deal with it. At that stage, I realized, and I had to confess, that I cannot make anything grow. No matter how hard I plant, no matter how hard I water, and how much energy I put into it. It's only God that can do it. As John 15 says, Jesus himself, you can do nothing. Listen to my words clearly. You can do nothing apart from me. Now, I'll never forget the day that I called Donnie. It's about 2 months later on after this moment that I built up and I thought, yes, I'm going to make this thing happen. It was just before the first Sunday in March. Sitting, called Donnie, said to Don, I don't know what's happening with Durban, but it feels like Jesus is closing this church because everybody feels like they're leaving. And I don't know if it's me, but I don't think it's me. I'm not doing anything that wrong or anything that I think I've never done before. And I'm sitting here, and at that stage, I told him, I think it's maybe time for me to go. I'm not sure if I should still stay in Durban. Maybe you have the wrong guy. So basically, I am saying I failed. And you know what failure gives you? Failure gives you, most in your mind, certainty for rejection. When you failed, everybody says, ha, sis. You know? That's what failure does. So here is my ultimate guarantee for rejection. I tell him this, Donnie looks at me and he says, yeah, well, okay, I hear what you're saying. And I'm considering all the economic stuff, obviously, Trump and of Trumpy and his Boksambende, you know, there in America, he's doing his thing there. And I'm thinking, whoa, not too long from now, we're going to have some trouble here financially. It doesn't make sense, guys. It doesn't make sense to keep me here. You know? I need to move somewhere else. Maybe I should become like one of the guys flying over and becoming a refugee. I actually emailed the guys to hear what's going on with the refugee. Not joking. Check my wife out. I actually said, guys, give me information. That's where I was. At that same moment, I was asked to start editing some videos for the Bigger Docs Today family, which is one of the gifts that I have in my past. I actually studied entertainment technology. And as I was doing that, the response to what I'm doing was like, wow, just look at how amazing Lorraine is. Look at how wonderful he is and what he can do. So I was standing before 2 moments thinking, well, I don't think I should be a leader anymore because I failed now. Maybe I should fly over to Trumpy and his Boksambende, or maybe I totally missed my calling and I should just be a video editor in some other space. That's where my mind was. It's interesting to see what fear can do to a man. Huh? Can you see? I'm busy giving up what? My calling, my role. It's a leader in that space. And it was at that moment that Donnie looked at me and he said to me, Lorraine, I'm going to give you an opportunity. You need to come and tell me, what do you want to do? Not what you think Jesus tells you. You get the right to be selfish now. You can tell me, what do you want? Yes, and as he was saying that, it almost felt like he says, "Stokkie neti." I have a lucky sweetie right in front of me. I can choose and I can get out of this at that moment. And the moment it was presented, I just recognized by the grace of God in that moment that I should not say a word now. I said, give me 3 days at least to pray about this. So I prayed about it. And after 3 days, God gave me so much clarity about my journey with him that I said, Dad, no matter how I feel, I will stay. And I believe you've called me to lead. And you know what's amazing? A part of those 3 days before I started praying, I told Donnie the Friday, that Sunday when I was sitting in church, I was actually playing worship here in front. And that Sunday, 10 new people walked into this church. Gerda looked at me, smiling. You sucker. Kind of as we say in Afrikaans, klein gelowige, ye of little faith. That's what I saw in her eyes. You think Jesus is ended? He doesn't end. He's busy with you. It was the moment that I came to my end and I actually faced that fear that I saw Jesus working. Then I told Gerda, I was like, wow, this is just a coincidence. Now, whatever. Next Sunday, Jesus must do the same. Otherwise, I don't believe this. Next Sunday, same thing happened. I mean, this morning, just look at you guys sitting here. Elena actually came to me one of those Sundays and said, what's happening to your church? And I said, it's not my church anymore. I'm no longer planting this thing. It's him. That fear almost caused me the end of my calling and my journey together. What was amazing is that God came back with great news that the family says, no ways, we're never giving up on this church and this planting. We'll provide. The last thing that we'll cut on will be Durban. We can cut on any financial crises, but Durban will stay open. More than what I've trusted God for. It is just phenomenal to see how God provides and that He looks after us. So, how are you dealing with your fear in your life? I'll tell you the 3 things that happened in my life through this process. The first step to dealing with fear is this. You need to confess it. No more, hey, ek is sterk. No. You need to speak the truth. If there is a fear in your life, you need to be very honest with God about it. Don't try and put up the religious face of knowing all the right answers. That will never help you deal with fear because fear is instructing you to keep all the right answers. The only thing that would make you willing to be really honest with God about what you truly fear, to confess what's really in your heart, would be that you are so convinced of His love that no matter what you say, He will never reject you. And He will never not love you. But you see, the thing is, the moment we confess our fears, because fears are rooted in lies, we can expose those lies. We bring them out, even if you don't understand them yet. You must tell God exactly that I'm afraid that I will never be able to live up to my Father's example of being a dad for me. I'm afraid maybe that I've already failed my children as a dad. And I don't think I'm good enough to continue with this. I've messed up some stuff. And to be bluntly and openly and genuinely honest with the Father is all that He asks. Because you see, He deals with truth. He does not deal with lies. So share with Him your version of the truth that you currently have that's frustrating you, that's keeping you bound in chains. To be free, to be the father that He's called you to be. Confess it, full on, open. Share that fear. The second way you deal with fear, firstly we confess. The second thing we do is we repent. What a strange word. For so many people, when I say repent, what do you think? You think, I need to say I'm very sorry. Huh? So when you repent, you say, sorry. That's not at all what the word means. The word repent is in Greek, the word metanoia. Everybody say metanoia? I see you guys are still awake. Thank you very much. It's good. So metanoia is that process that takes a little worm to become a beautiful butterfly. It literally means the change of your mind. All your worm thoughts becomes butterfly thoughts. That's literally what it means. Now I wonder, how many thoughts in your life about yourself can you classify as worm thoughts? Anybody wants to put up a hand here? I had a few thoughts about myself. In my own eyes, I look like you hear what I'm saying? So what do we do when we repent? We come to God and we tell Him, okay, Dad, this is my truth. This is how I feel. I'm sharing all my worm thoughts with you. Here's my confession. And I don't even feel you're with me. I'm angry at you. You can go wherever you want to go. And then after that, you tell God, like a question, God, what do you have to say about this to me? And then you pay attention to what He has to say. You stay quiet. And you allow the Father to speak to you about whatever fear you may hold in your life. He will clearly speak, I promise you. How do we listen to the Father's voice? Well, we get ourselves quiet and we become aware of our thoughts and the world around us, nature, looking as God makes Himself known through that in Jesus Christ. And as He starts speaking personally to you, you'll discover something about the Father's voice that I think so few people know. And it's that it carries authority. You know, many times when we struggle with stuff in our lives, like fear, we try to reach out to more knowledge. You know, if I just know enough, then I can deal with this thing that I'm worried about. Anybody suffering from analysis paralysis, Stuff like that. Like, oh, my nose is not lekker. Let's Google. Doctor, Google. And then the next moment, it's, oh, my nose, something is dry. And this world of fear is built behind you. Anybody like that before? That's what I'm reaching out. I'm reaching out to knowledge to try and deal with my fear. Anybody ever felt that it really helped you, or is it cycling you further down into fear? I'm becoming even more anxious and more fearful now, correct? I can read subtitles now. I can see it in your eyes, let me just say. But let me tell you something about the father's authority. When John and Micah has a big fight, and Micah is afraid of not being able to sort out her brother, which many times happens the other way around, but let's for now use it like this. I'm joking. What's the first thing she does when she runs out of knowledge and capacity and power to deal with that threat of Jean taking her Barbies, which obviously doesn't happen anymore, but you're here with me. Great threat. She can't deal with that fear and that threat. She's overwhelmed by it. She totally loses all sense of reality at that moment. She's just in a big fight, and you've lost everything, and I'm never going to have this, and jy wil nie vir my gee nie, you never want to give this back to me. And then she gives up, and what does she do? She runs to, and she says, Daddy, 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 Joinky doesn't want to, and then I hear the whole story. And then I just want to have some peace and quiet in my house. So what do I tell her? I say, Micah, you go and tell John, Daddy says. You must see what happens to that girl. Nah, it's from here to raw. Yeah, baby. It's like, I was afraid. I was like absolutely held captive. I'm a victim of my brother's stuff in my life. I can never, ever rise to the occasion. Poor little me, all me. Anybody like that before in your fearful life? Okay. And then your father speaks, and the next moment, something rises in you. And Micah's chest out. Authority. She walks out of there now. Even before she's through the door, she's already, Janky! And then she goes, Papa say! And then whenever she adds on some extra tales, like, Daddy says you must do this, and you must give me all of your Lego forever. You must see how quickly Jean has the gift of discernment. It's like, oh, light. Now we can fight on. Do you hear what I'm saying? When you hear the voice of the Father, He speaks truth. And the moment you hear that, something happens within your sense of confidence and the way you position yourself, because you hear the heart and the truth and the authority of a loving dad speaking. That's what it means when you repent, guys. When you repent, you wait upon God to hear what He has to say about your great giant standing before you. That you can, like a David, stand before you, Goliath, and say, you come to me with all of your threats, but I come to you. In what? In what? In the name of the Lord. I come to you with other authority. Who are you, you uncircumcised Philistine? You that do not even know or have authority and connect with the Father, the true creator of heaven and earth. Who are you to call me whatever you want to? And that day, we all know what happened. Goliath had a great fall. Step number 3. After you've repented and you hear His voice, transformation happens in your life. That moment. And the question that you ask then is, God, what do you need me to do? And then I want to encourage you to do exactly what He tells you to do. So Dad, next time that you feel you're not good enough as a father, I want you to tell your Father in heaven that. And you need to ask Him, Dad, what do you need me to know about the way that I see myself right now? And you will discover how He turns your life upside down in an instant.
Thanks for joining us online today. As a family, we would love to meet you in person, so plan a visit to our Dr. Deo Durban campus by going to drDeo.org/Durban.